Looks pretty cool. Those are not my words. They're Emily's words. It's about to bring us the press review. It does look cool. You're right, Emily. Well done. She's starting off, though, with the press review with the British front pages today. I suspect I know what's all over the front of them, Emily.
Yes, they're all quite similar this morning, all covering the BBC crisis. Let's have a look first at the tabloid, the Daily Mail here. Their headline, BBC bosses quit in disgrace. They have a photo here of BBC director Tim Davie and head of news Deborah Turness. Now, they've both resigned because of a crisis caused by a clip of Trump in a documentary on Panorama, where two pieces of his speech were edited together to make it look more incriminating. Let's have a look at the Daily Express. They have quite a similar front page here, except they quote their Donald Trump saying they are very dishonest people. The US president called the BBC 100% fake news and threatened a lawsuit. The Guardian also covering this story on their front page here. It calls it the Panorama row. It has a quote from someone at the BBC who says it feels a little bit like a coup. Now, The Guardian has an interesting opinion piece on this story here, which argues that the BBC is facing a, quote, coordinated, politically motivated attack. The piece says that the BBC should have stood up to the Telegraph, who initially leaked the story, Trump, as well as the Conservative Party. In the US, CNN has this analysis piece here. It says that Trump was not the only factor. It says that Britain's right-wing press has been feasting like vultures over the bad edit, and that Conservative critics have used it to continue their long-running campaign against the broadcaster. Meanwhile, the BBC itself has an article here by their culture and media editor. It says that it's a seismic moment for the organisation and highlights the rift between the board of the BBC and its news division.
To Brazil now for this next one. COP30 opening its doors today. What are the papers saying on this one?
Lots of coverage about COP30, a lot of analysis and opinion pieces. Let's start with Les Echos here in France. They have this analysis piece today. It says that making the progress needed could be mission impossible. And their headline here reads, even if Jesus was the president of COP, the results would still be insufficient. Brazil will have a crucial role during the summit, acting as a pivot between the global south and the global north and hoping to find the middle ground. Libération also covering COP here with this analysis piece. It's looking at who is not attending the conference. It says that the United States have never been less engaged. The article says that Donald Trump has never believed in human-induced climate change and describes his policies as a crusade against the Paris Agreement. Politico also looking at this here. It says that Trump's COP30 snub has thrown Europe into a role it is not ready for. Without the US, it says the EU will bear the brunt of the demands levelled at rich countries. Back to France with Humanité here. They're looking at who is attending the conference, mainly fossil fuel lobbyists. The article says there are wolves among the sheep. It looks at different strategies that lobbyists use to disrupt the climate talks, often dissimulating their identities or even by having party badges within official delegations. Meanwhile, a lot of the coverage is looking at whether or not these climate conferences are actually useful. This is an article in the Times here, which says that COPs have failed and that climate realism is needed. It says that climate change is just getting worse and that future generations will be appalled by the levels of inaction. But on the other side, we've got an article here in the Conversation by a professor at the University of Sheffield, and it says that COPs are working, just not the way critics think they do. He argues that emissions are rising much more slowly now that they would have been without the UN regime. The article says that dismissing the UN climate conferences as pointless risks slowing the progress they need.
Staying on a positive note, Emily has found an uplifting story on football. Football very dear to your heart, I know.
Very dear to my heart. This isn't the good news of Neves' last-minute header, in case PSG fans were wondering, but it's news about an Afghanistan women's team in The Guardian here. Afghan Women United is made up of refugees who have escaped the Taliban's brutal oppression. The article features an interview with one of the team's star players called Haidari. Now, she explains that playing football helped her get over the trauma of having having to evacuate after the Taliban takeover. Now, the team recently won 7-0 against Libya, but players say that winning on the pitch is only part of the story and that their main message is to never lose hope.
And that's a very good message to have. Emily's going to finish by bringing us the latest update on the Louvre jewellery heist.
Yes, well, I don't know. My first question to you, Stuart, is do you remember this man?
I certainly remember the picture, yeah. I was never quite sure what was going on, but I certainly remember that image, yeah.
Well, exactly. There was a lot of mystery around who that man was, and it's now all been revealed because he has been tracked down. Fedora Man has been unmasked as 15-year-old Pedro.
15?
Pedro Delvaux from Rambouillet in the south of Paris. The teenager and his grandparents were at the Louvre for a family visit when the photo was taken and then went viral. Everyone asking if he was an inspector working on the case. He just said he liked dressing up in vintage clothes and looking chic like Poirot or Sherlock. Pedro said he played along with all the rumours and kept the mystery alive by not immediately revealing who he was. So that's one mystery down, but another big one to go.
That's amazing. 15 years old and he's dressing like that.
Looking pretty dapper.
Very dapper. Dapper is certainly the word. Emily, thanks a lot, Emily Boyle, with the papers for us on France 24. A lot coming up. We're going to bring you more coverage of the COP summit, of course, which is getting underway later on in Brazil. We're going to talk to the French head of the Worldwide Fund for Nature as part of today's perspective after the break.